Assalamualaikum. My name is Badrul Hakim bin Badrul Nizam and my matric number is 10TKN19F1092. Today I would like to present about case study for engineering and society, and the title is about professional ethics. Okay, for my first question of this case study is about engineering A is employed by a company which works on defense project. Okay, for my answer is engineers in the fulfillment of their professional duties shall hold paramount the safety, health and welfare of the public in the performance of their professional duties. Engineers shall not aid or abet the unlawful practice of engineering by a person or firm, improper expenditure of public funds. The situation presented here has become well known in recent years as whistleblowing, and we note that there have been several cases evoking national interest in this defense. As we recognized in earlier cases, if an engineer feels strongly that an employer's course of conduct is improper when related to public concerns, and if the engineer feels compelled to blow the whistle to expose the fact as he sees them, he may well have to pay the price of loss of employment. In some of the more notorious cases of recent years, engineers have gone through such experience, and even if they have unlimitedly prevailed on legal or political grounds, the experience is not one to be undertaken lightly. In this type of situation, we feel that the ethical duty or right of the engineer becomes a matter of personal conscience, but we are not willing to make a blanket statement that there is an ethical duty in these kinds of situations for the engineer to continue his campaign within the company and make the issues one for public discussion. The code only requires that the engineers withdraw from a project and report to proper authorities when the circumstance involving endangerment of the public health, safety and welfare. To conclude, Engineer A does not have an ethical obligation to continue his effort to secure a change in the policy of his employer under this circumstance, or to report his concern to proper authority, but has an ethical right to do so as a matter of personal conscience. Okay, so my answer for question 2 is about refusing to sign or seal construction documents. So my answer is the obligation of the engineer to take responsibility for professional service is a basic ethical principle contained in the NSPE Code of Ethics. As a general matter, engineers as professionals have the obligation to assume responsibility for professional service performed by them or under their direct personal supervision, depending upon the nature of the work and other requirements. This may include work performed for the benefit of a client, design work, report plans, specification and work prepared by the engineer which will be submitted to a public authority for approval. Engineers who work for one firm and then move on to another firm are not released from this professional responsibility. The work that they perform for their previous employer is no less their work because they no longer have a direct relationship with that firm. Once a professional renders professional service on behalf of a client, the professional is duty bound to make certain that the work is done in a responsible and professional manner, and that the client's interests are protected and preserved. Since Sarina was primarily responsible for the work and had direct control and personal supervision over the work, Sarina has a professional obligation to sign the work regardless of how the compensation matter is resolved. Assuming, as we have in this case, that Sarina was primarily responsible for the work and had direct control and a personal supervision over the work, Sarina was clearly justified in asking firm A to sign and seal the document in question. So to conclude, the first question, can Sarina refuse to sign or seal the construction documents? It was unethical for Sarina to refuse to sign or seal the construction documents. The next question, can Sarina ask firm A to pay for her signing in documents? The answer is it was ethical for Sarina to ask firm A to pay for her signing the documents. And the last question for question 2, what are Sarina's obligations with respect to the work she left behind? And the answer is it would be ethical for Sarina's obligation with respect to the work she left behind. Okay, now we move on to the last question, which are comments by one engineer concerning another. Okay, so my answer for the question is, engineers shall not attempt to injure maliciously or falsely, directly or indirectly, the professional reputation, prospect, practice, or employment for others engineers. Engineers who believe others are guilty of unethical or illegal practice shall present such information to the proper authority for action. The obligation on all engineers to respect the reputation of all other engineers in their professional endeavours. Engineers should be honest and direct in their communication with their colleagues in all professional affairs. Frequently, individual engineers have both a professional and a business relationship with their professional colleagues, which requires the use of appropriate judgment and discretion. To understand the situation, Alice required the service of a structural engineer in another jurisdiction and sought the advice of a college in that jurisdiction, professional engineers. This is entirely appropriate and is certainly not inconsistent with the code. It would appear that the only questionable action on the part of Alice was that when confronted with the less than satisfactory professional performance of Anna, Alice made note of this fact to professional engineers. While Alice's communication with professional engineers may be an appropriate method of providing feedback, Alice should have also directed her comments about Anna to herself. If Alice had a difficult time getting into contact with Anna, she could have explored other avenues of direct contact. It may be that due to her frustration with the inability to receive a response from Anna, Alice intentionally made her views known to professional engineers in order to put the heat on Anna. While the facts do not provide sufficient details, we believe that Anna had a professional responsibility to communicate more directly with Alice about the status of the project. However, we do not believe that Anna's actions were in violation of the Code of Ethics. Finally, while it appears that Anna would be well advised to improve her practice, the facts of the case do not demonstrate that Anna was unethical. So the answer for this case study is, how should Alice handle the situation? So to conclude, Alice should act ethically in communicating with Anna. They need to discuss only the two of them about the problem without involving others. The second question is, should Alice contact the secretary to inform him that he did not give a good recommendation? So the answer is, Alice should not contact the secretary to inform him that she did not give a good recommendation. So the final question is, should Alice contact the secretary without first saying something to Anna? So the answer is, Alice should not contact the secretary without first saying something to Anna and need to discuss first only themselves. So that's all from me. Thank you.